I'm Madison County Prosecutor Rob Wood, and next to me is the Fremont County Prosecutor Lindsay Blake. We are working jointly, along with our teams, in the matter involving the deaths of Tammy Daybell, Tylee Ryan, and Joshua or JJ Vallow. Before we discuss details of the grand jury, I would like to recognize the law enforcement that's with us today. On behalf of myself, Lindsay, and our prosecution team, we want to express our deep appreciation for the efforts of the dozens of local, state, including Idaho Attorney General, federal law enforcement members, and Arizona law enforcement who have been working to gather evidence for a year and a half to bring justice to Tammy Daybell, Tylee Ryan, and JJ Vallow. The unprecedented cooperation among law enforcement has been remarkable, and every person who has worked on this case is to be commended for their diligence and steadfast pursuit of the facts. The thousands of hours that have been invested into seeking the truth for these innocent victims must be recognized. Several members of the law enforcement team are here with us today, including members from Fremont County, the Rexburg Police, Madison County, Idaho State Police, and the FBI. So we want to thank you for all you've done. I'll now tell you the charges that that the grand jury have indicted Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow on. On Monday, May 24th, 2021, a Fremont County grand jury delivered the following new indictments. Lori and Chad Daybell were indicted on 2 counts of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception for the deaths of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. Lori and Chad Daybell were also indicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. Lori and Chad Daybell were also indicted on the charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder in the death of Tammy Daybell. And Chad Daybell was also indicted on 1 count of first-degree murder in the death of Tammy Daybell. Lori Daybell was also indicted on the charge of grand theft related to Social Security survivor benefits allocated for the care of minors Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow that were appropriated after the children were missing and ultimately found deceased. Chad Daybell was also indicted on 2 counts of insurance fraud related to life insurance policies he had on Tammy Daybell, for which he was the beneficiary and received funds after her death.
Good morning. I'm Fremont County Prosecutor Lindsay Blake. We know many members of the community may feel that progress on this case has been slow. Due to the ongoing safety restrictions imposed by the courts during the pandemic, we just recently were given permission to present information to the grand jury for their review. I want to assure everyone that despite the delays, we have been working diligently to pursue justice for the victims in this case, to ensure we have the evidence required to prove the facts beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. Rob and I have partnered on the investigation into all actions against the victims, each of us cross-designated members of our offices, as well as Rachel Smith, an experienced homicide attorney, as deputy prosecutors. The partnership creates a prosecution team representing the people of both Madison and Fremont counties. Members of the grand jury deliberated and determined there is probable cause to believe the Daybells willfully and knowingly conspired to commit several crimes that led to the death of 3 innocent people. We believe the crimes occurred on or about October 26th of 2018 to January 15th of 2020 in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, and elsewhere, including Madison County. Lori and Chad Daybell were both served early this afternoon with warrants. The court will be posting the public legal documents and the time of the first appearance hearing shortly, which will occur sometime later today or before noon tomorrow. That hearing will be held virtually and will be available for the viewing on the court's YouTube channel. The penalty for the most serious charges range from life in prison without the possibility of parole to the death penalty. We will not be disclosing further information about what penalties we will pursue for these charges. By law, however, we must make a decision and inform the defendants on whether we will pursue the death penalty within 60 days after the defendant's first entry of a plea. We know you have a lot of questions, but at this time we will not be taking questions while the matter is pending. Rob and I have a legal and ethical obligation to protect the defendant's rights to a fair trial. We take this obligation seriously, and we will continue to balance the public's interest in this matter, ethical obligations, including our responsibility to protect the integrity of the facts and evidence, and minimizing unnecessary and erroneous publicity. This investigation is far from over, so if anyone has information related to these crimes, please contact Fremont County Sheriff's Department at 208-624-4482. The indictments have more details that should provide many answers to your questions. Under the law, Lori and Chad Daybell are presumed innocent while charges are pending. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you very much.
We'll be on the record here in Fremont County. It is 11:44 here on the 26th of May, 2021. Good morning to everybody. We will call up case number CR 2221-1624, State of Idaho versus Lori Noreen Vallow. Miss Vallow, Miss Daybell is present here with her attorney, Mr. Means. I have Miss Blake. I have Ms. Smith and Mr. Wood appearing here for the state. This is the date and time for an initial appearance. The court took a recess prior to the hearing today and had a sidebar with counsel in chambers. Based upon the information that was provided to the court finds that there's some exigent circumstances as well as a motion that was made orally to me to continue the initial appearance by the defense to a future time. A date certain has not yet been set. What is the state's position with regards to the motion made by defense to continue this initial appearance?
Your Honor, the state objects to the motion to continue.
Mr. Means, it is your desire to seek a motion for continuance, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
I couldn't hear you. Will you speak a little bit louder?
Correct, Your Honor.
Thank you. Based upon the information that was provided to the court is going to continue this initial appearance based upon the information that was provided to me, and we will set this for a time and date certain in the future. For right now, we don't know that date and time, but we'll get that set as soon as is feasible. Any questions about what's going to happen here today, Mr. Wood?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Means?
No, Your Honor.
We'll proceed from there. Thanks, everybody, for
Your Honor,
appearing.
we would quickly ask if Mr. Means has entered a notice of appearance on this case.
Mr. Means, is it your intent to represent Miss Daybell here in this case?
It is, Your Honor.
Do you plan on entering a notice of appearance to, I guess, just to memorialize that?
As soon as I get an opportunity, I will, Your Honor.
Any other questions, Mr. Wood?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, that will be all for today. Thanks, everybody, for appearing. We will be adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We'll go on the record here in Fremont County. Good morning to everybody. It is May 26, 2021. Case number CR 2221-1623, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. Present here on the Zoom call, I have Mr. Daybell appearing with his counsel, Mr. Pryor. I have Mr. Wood, who represents the state. Also, Ms. Blake, who is here representing the state. I have a court reporter and someone from the Idaho Supreme Court for technical issues. This is the date and time for an initial appearance. Mr. Daybell, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Can you
I
hear
need
me?
you to speak a little bit louder, Mr. Daybell.
Yes, I can hear you.
Mr. Daybell, the purpose of today's initial appearance is to go through your rights, to talk about the date for future hearings, to talk about counsel, and a few other things. Mr. Daybell, would you review a copy of the notification of rights form that was sent down to the jail prior to this hearing today?
Yes,
You understand your legal rights here today?
I do.
Mr. Pryor, did you go through that notification of rights form with your client?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Daybell, did you receive a copy of the indictment that was filed on May 25th, 2021, a warrant that was filed on that same date?
Yes, I did.
Did you have a chance to review that with your counsel, Mr. Pryor?
He did, Judge, and we have no questions at this time.
Mr. Pryor, it's my understanding from a review of the notification of rights that your client is waiving a formal reading of the indictment. If it's okay with you, I'll just go through each charge and the maximum penalties. I'm not going to go through the allegation contained in the charge.
That's appropriate, Your Honor.
Ms. Blake or Mr. Wood, any objection to that?
No, Your Honor, I think that's appropriate.
No objection.
Right. Mr. Daybell, the indictment, like I said, is case number CR 2221-1623. It was filed on May 25th, 2021. In the indictment, there are 9 counts. I'm going to go through the counts that are relevant to your case. The first count is conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, as well as grand theft by deception. That count is punishable to the same extent as the underlying crime on the conspiracy. On the first part of that count, murder in the first degree, it's punishable by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. It carries up to a $50,000 fine or both. It also carries with it up to a $5,000 fine and restitution. With regards to the second part of count 1, conspiracy to commit grand theft by deception, that portion of the charge carries up to 14 years in prison, up to a $5,000 fine or both. Count 1 is an allegation of, like I said, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft. The murder relates to the victim and the death of TR, a minor. Count 2 is a charge of first-degree murder. It carries with it a maximum penalty punishable by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. It carries up to a $50,000 fine and up to a $5,000 fine and restitution. It relates to the death of the minor child, TR. Count 3 is a charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder and grand theft by deception. That charge carries with it the same maximum penalty as count 1. In other words, it's punishable by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years, a $50,000 fine and or up to a $5,000 fine and restitution. The second portion of that charge is conspiracy to commit grand theft by deception. That portion of the charge carries up to 14 years in the state penitentiary, up to a $5,000 fine or both. That count relates to the death of the minor child, JV. Count 4 is a charge of first-degree murder. That charge is punishable by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years, a $50,000 fine plus $5,000 fine and restitution. That count relates to the death of JV, a minor. Count 5 is conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. That charge carries with it the potential penalty of death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years, a $50,000 fine plus $5,000 fine and restitution. That charge relates to the death of Tammy Daybell. Count 6 is a charge of first-degree murder. That charge carries with it punishment by death or life imprisonment. If the death penalty is not sought, the court shall impose a life sentence, including mandatory minimum period of incarceration of 10 years. Carries up to a $50,000 fine and a $5,000 fine and restitution. The next count related to your case is count 8. It's an allegation of insurance fraud. Insurance fraud, as it is charged, carries up to 15 years in the state penitentiary, a fine of up to $15,000 plus restitution. Count 9 is the last count. It is also a charge of insurance fraud. It carries up to 15 years in the state penitentiary, a fine of up to $15,000 or both plus restitution. Mr. Daybell, the maximum penalties of all of those counts carry up to, they could all run consecutively, one after the other, or they could run concurrently. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Pryor, have you had a chance to explain that to your client?
Yes, Your Honor, I have.
We'll proceed then. Very well. Mr. Daybell, you're appearing here today with Mr. Pryor. Do you wish to represent yourself? Do you wish to hire an attorney, Mr. Pryor, or would you like to seek application of a public defender?
Judge, Mr. Daybell has retained my office to continue representing him in this matter, and that's the way I anticipate going forward, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Daybell, is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you. All right, the next item of business is to set the arraignment. That arraignment will be in front of the district court judge. As of right now, Mr. Pryor, Mr. Wood, Ms. Blake, the court has available June the 9th in the morning. That's the date we will set that arraignment for. It's yet to be determined if that's going to be in person or via Zoom. That will be worked out at a later time and date. Also, the exact time of that arraignment on June 9th will be set by the court, and we'll send out final notice of that, but it will be in the morning on June the 9th. Does that work for everybody?
That will work for the state, Your Honor.
Yes, Judge.
We'll plan on that. Right now, the warrant has set forth no bail. Mr. Pryor, does that need to be addressed here today?
No, Judge.
Is there anything else we need to take up here today at this initial appearance, Mr. Wood or Ms. Blake?
Not from the state, Your Honor. Thank you.
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Mr. Pryor, anything else from the defense we need to bring up here today at this initial appearance?
Nothing further, Your Honor. May we be excused?
You may. Thanks, everybody, for appearing. We will be adjourned on this matter.